President von der Leyen delivered this morning a special address in Davos at the World Economic Forum. This year's meeting, as you know, is dominated by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. President von der Leyen made clear that the invasion is not only a matter of Ukraine's survival or of European security, it is also putting into question our whole international order. The President described how the EU is supporting Ukraine, imposing unprecedented sanctions against Russia, proposing 10 billion worth of macro-financial assistance to Ukraine, and now a reconstruction platform to be led jointly by the European Commission and Ukraine. The President also stressed the consequences for Europe in terms of energy security and the urgent need to move away from Russian fossil fuels. The European Green Deal and Repower EU are the way to get there. Finally, the President also addressed the threat that the Kremlin's invasion is posing to food security worldwide. The European Union is working to get grain to global markets, opening solidarity lanes, linking Ukraine's borders to European ports, and the European Union is also supporting Africa to become less dependent on food imports. The President announced that she is working with the President of Egypt, El-Sisi, to address the repercussions of the war with an event on food security and solutions in Europe and in the region. Ensuite, permettez-moi de vous présenter l'agenda de la réunion du collège de demain, qui a été confirmé suite à la réunion du cabinet et des chefs de cabinet des commissaires. Le collège discutera d'un paquet relatif aux sanctions pénales applicables en cas de violation des mesures restrictives, le recouvrement et la confiscation d'avoirs et l'ajout à la liste des crimes de l'Union européenne, ou Eurocrimes, de la violation des mesures restrictives et des sanctions. Le vice-président Margaritis Schinas va présenter le compte-rendu de la réunion du collège demain. Il présentera ce paquet de mesures ensemble avec les commissaires Johansson et Reinders. Le vice-président Schinas vous parlera également du rapport sur la mise en œuvre de l'Union de la sécurité qui sera adopté séparément demain. Pour continuer, j'appelle Anita à me joindre pour une annonce sur la gestion de notre zone Schengen.
Merci, Dana. Good afternoon. The Schengen area is one of the greatest achievements of the EU. The Schengen project has torn down barriers and has changed the daily reality of millions of people. Today, the Commission has adopted a Schengen package with 3 documents. The first annual Schengen report, a report on the status of security checks at the external borders, and has launched a consultation on the future of EU integrated border management. We will continue the discussions on strengthening Schengen area at the Schengen Forum on 2nd of June and at the Schengen Council on 10th of June. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anita. Now I will call on Peter for news linked to the latest developments in Ukraine.
Thank you. And you heard from President von der Leyen speaking about the global consequences of Russia's campaign military aggression against Ukraine. Today is actually 3 months, 90 days since this brutal aggression against Ukraine was launched. They named it a special military operation, but it turns out to be especially brutal carnage against Ukraine and its people. And it is alarming that there are more and more reports about unspeakable crimes committed against the Ukrainian people by the Russian troops. What is most disturbing are reports about sexual violence being used as a weapon of war by the Russian troops against women, children, including babies. This is particularly heinous and shows what kind of people Putin is commanding and sending to Ukraine. We strongly condemn these horrendous crimes. The perpetrators must be and will be held accountable. We also strongly condemn any attempts by the Russian occupiers to create illegal parallel administrative structures in the territories of Ukraine they are temporarily occupying. This includes, for example, introduction of the Russian ruble as parallel currency to the Ukrainian hryvnia in Kherson region, which is temporarily under Russian occupation. We also strongly condemn the attempts to forcefully introduce Russian school books and Russian school curriculum, Russian school programs in the same region of Ukraine. All these attempts to unlawfully alter the status of the parts of Ukraine under temporary occupation by the Russian forces are clear violation of the foundation of the international law, of the UN Charter, and Ukraine's constitution, its sovereignty and territorial integrity. And Russia and its political leadership and military leadership have to be aware that all those involved in such illegal acts, aggressive acts and criminal acts will be held accountable.
Thank you very much, Peter. I will now give the floor to Christian to complete with information on what we are doing to support investigations of war crimes in Ukraine.
Thank you, Dana, and let me pick up where Peter stopped on the war crimes. We will do anything we can to ensure that those responsible for the atrocities committed in Ukraine are held accountable. There is a lot of work underway from the EU side to support the investigation of war crimes in Ukraine. A joint investigation team consisting of Poland, Lithuania and Ukraine and supported by Eurojust and Europol has been set up, counting also for the first time on the participation of the International Criminal Court. We also expect a number of more member states to join these efforts soon. By now, 5 member states have agreed to deploy around 40 experts in support to the Ukrainian judicial authorities. These experts, who are either already on the ground or will soon travel to Ukraine, are part of a broader discussion on support offered by many member states, which continues to grow. Additionally, member states have also provided 25 experts in support to the International Criminal Court, and about a dozen member states are also providing financial support to the investigations. The EU is also launching on its part a dedicated 7.5 million project to support the investigations by ensuring large data collection on war crimes and crimes against humanity, as well as for missing and disappeared persons. The European Union, the United States and the United Kingdom have also announced the creation of the Atrocity Crimes Advisory Group, which is a mechanism aimed at ensuring efficient coordination of the respective support to efforts on the ground. This initiative will reinforce current EU, US and UK efforts to further ensure accountability for such crimes. One thing is clear, there will be and there must be no impunity. Those responsible for these atrocious crimes must be brought to justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christian. Et enfin, permettez-moi de vous rappeler que la réunion de l'ECOFIN se déroule aujourd'hui à Bruxelles. Le vice-président exécutif Valdis Dombrovskis et les commissaires Gentiloni et McGuinness y participent au nom de la Commission. Les ministres auront un échange sur les impacts économiques de l'invasion de l'Ukraine par la Russie. Les ministres continueront aussi avec la négociation sur la mise en place d'un niveau d'imposition minimale mondiale sur la base de la proposition de la Commission. En outre, ils chercheront d'adopter une orientation générale sur la proposition de la Commission qui porte sur les fonds européens d'investissement à long terme. La Commission, à son tour, fera le point sur la mise en œuvre de la facilité pour la reprise et la résilience et présentera notre plan Repower EU. Le vice-président exécutif Dombrovskis participera à la conférence de presse qui suivra la réunion. Ensuite, séparément, les ministres de l'Agriculture se réunissent également aujourd'hui. Les commissaires Wojciechowski, Kyriakides et Vălean représentent la Commission au cours de la réunion. Les ministres discuteront de la situation dans les marchés agricoles dans le contexte de l'invasion de l'Ukraine et de la mise en place des voies de solidarité proposées par la Commission pour connecter l'Ukraine aux ports européens. Les ministres échangeront aussi sur la propagation de la grippe aviaire et l'approche à la vaccination. Le commissaire Wojciechowski participera à la conférence de presse suite à cette réunion du Conseil qui est prévue vers 20 h. Comme toujours, je vous prie donc de garder vos questions liées à ces sujets pour les conférences de presse prévues plus tard pour pouvoir bénéficier de la présence, de la participation et des réponses accordées, données par nos membres du collège. Voilà, c'est tout pour les annonces d'aujourd'hui et je vous invite maintenant à me signaler si vous avez des questions. Je vois déjà quelques questions. Oui, vas-y Alice.
Thank you, Dana. A question about Turkish President Erdogan. He said last night that he no longer recognizes Kyriakos Mitsotakis, Greece's Prime Minister, will skip a meeting where the two plan to meet in a few weeks. Is there a reaction by the Commission to this, given that nominally at least Turkey is still a candidate country? And in particular, is there concern that this may portend rising tensions and that we may relive the difficult moments of 2020? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this question. Well, as you could expect, we cannot comment and we will not comment on bilateral meetings between leaders to address various issues, bilateral issues or others, so that's nothing for us to comment. On a very general note, obviously, we promote and encourage very good cooperation between leaders, in particular, of course, between Greece and Turkey, and we hope, of course, that positive vibes will spread and will be reflected in statements and in actions in the region. But there is nothing more that we can say about the sayings that you referred to. Virginie. Oh, let me first see if there is any follow-up on this specific issue, so please only keep your hand up at this stage if you have questions on that. Yes, Maria, go ahead, online.
Actually, my question is on the foreign affairs, and I'm wondering, Turkey, and I'm wondering if I can ask now, Dana?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm asking on behalf of the Cyprus Broadcasting Corporation, and it is a question on the so-called protocol that was signed between the Turkish occupied territory of the Republic of Cyprus and Turkey. It is supposed to be an economic and fiscal protocol, but in fact it's a guideline about many issues such as freedom and syndicalism. For example, whoever doesn't agree with the president could be in jail for 5 years. So, given that the fact that the whole Cyprus is part of the EU, and of course a European territory, which is the reaction of the Commission? Are you aware of this protocol? What would you do to stop the restriction of the freedom and democracy in the Turkish occupied territories of Cyprus? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. I will invite Stefan to provide an answer to this.
Good afternoon, Maria. Well, as you know, the European Union is a strong promoter of freedom of expression and press freedom, both within its territory, of course, but also abroad. Freedom of expression and press freedom constitute essential foundations for democracy and rule of law, and so the use of criminal law as a means of putting pressure on critical voices is unacceptable for us. And I'll have to leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Are there any additional questions on this issue for Stefan? No. Yes, Maria has a follow-up question. First, Maria, go.
I didn't get an answer about if the Commission was aware about this protocol or not.
Listen, I can only reiterate what I just said, that this freedom of expression, press freedom, are really essential elements of any democracy, any rule of law, fundamental principles in the European Union, and that whenever criminal law is used as a means to put pressure on critical voices, we did and we will continue to consider this as unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Are there any additional questions on this matter? So please only keep your hand up at this stage if you have questions about this. I see two more hands up. So Zoriana, is your question on this? Can we have her? I think we don't have sound from Zoriana, so I will give her time to sort it out, and I will give the floor to George. Do we have George connected?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, hi. This is a follow-up and a further question in a sense. Is the Commission also aware of the new construction and renovation works that are being conducted by the Turkish civil administration in Varosha, in Famagusta? And if you can answer what actions are being taken to prevent these actions from contributing to further deteriorating the situation? How does the Commission believe the EU should respond? And in a wider sense, since the Commission has drafted a report a few months ago on exactly the ways in which the Turkish government is interfering in internal affairs in the Turkish civil community, I believe you could be able to have a wider answer on how the European Union should respond to this behavior within EU territory. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We try to give an answer. Again, Stefan.
Thank you. You referred indeed to the developments in Varosha. We are aware of the developments in Varosha, which we are following with great concern. The Turkish government and the leadership of the Turkish Cypriot community are fully aware of the EU position on Varosha. We continue to be guided by the relevant UN Security Council resolutions with respect to Varosha, resolutions which consider attempts to settle any part of the city by people other than its inhabitants as inadmissible. So no actions should be carried out in relation to Varosha that are not in accordance with those resolutions. Opening new parts of the beach or preparing it for the summer season, as recently reported in the media, is a further step in the wrong direction. Let me maybe stress again that the EU underlines, as it has done in the past as well, the need to avoid unilateral actions in breach of international law and renewed provocations, which could raise tensions on the island and compromise the ongoing efforts to seek common ground between the parties towards a lasting settlement of the Cyprus issue, always in line with the relevant UN Security Council resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Are there any additional questions on this? Yes, first the follow-up. George, go ahead.
The EU has said that it expects Turkey to roll back its actions on Varosha specifically, and since that hasn't been done, is there any action that is being considered, anything that can be done in order to revert this path? Thanks.
I think I cannot add anything more than the things that I have said, reiterating our position that we stick to the relevant UN Security Council resolutions and that any actions that undermine this are unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Are there any additional questions for Stefan on this issue? Zoriana has her hand up again, and perhaps now it works. Let's give it a try. No, still not possible. So then we'll try later. Try to sort out your mic source in the meantime, and we go to other subjects. Virginie had her hand up before. Go ahead, Virginie.
Oui, bonjour. Je voulais revenir sur le plan REPowerEU et la manière de le financer. Vous avez évoqué la possibilité de vendre des quotas carbone qui avait été mis en réserve pour une somme de 20 milliards d'euros. En admettant que ça aille jusqu'au bout, dans votre proposition, quelle serait ensuite la manière dont cet argent serait alloué aux États membres? Est-ce qu'il y a un lien entre cette clé d'allocation éventuelle future et le plan de relance, le Next Generation EU, le RRF, voilà. Ou est-ce que c'est des choses complètement séparées? Merci.
Merci pour la question, Virginie. Je vais demander à Verle de parler de cet aspect spécifique.
Oui, donc effectivement, une fois que les changements que nous proposons au règlement seront adoptés, les États membres pourront soumettre un nouveau chapitre, un chapitre appelé Repower EU, dans lequel ils pourront inclure des réformes et des investissements supplémentaires à l'appui des objectifs Repower EU. Et donc, ce sont des investissements bien spécifiques que nous proposons. Je peux vous les énumérer, mais vous les trouverez aussi dans notre proposition. Mais pour vous donner un exemple pourrait être la promotion de l'efficacité énergétique dans les bâtiments ou encore la décarbonation de l'industrie ou par exemple aussi de remédier au goulet d'étranglement interne et transfrontalier en matière de transport d'énergie. Donc vraiment à l'appui des objectifs Repower EU. Et la Commission va analyser ces réformes et ces investissements, comme elle a fait aussi dans le cadre de la soumission initiale du plan de relance et de résilience. Mais c'est clair que, vu l'urgence politique, que la Commission va faire tout dans son possible pour accélérer ce processus.
Merci beaucoup, Verle. Je pense que Virginie a une question de suivi. Vas-y.
Donc, si j'ai bien compris, une fois que les États membres auront déposé un amendement à leur plan de relance, ce qui financera ce nouveau chapitre, ça sera une partie en prêt qui viendra des 200 milliards ou 220 milliards, je ne sais plus combien il reste, de prêts disponibles qui n'ont pas été alloués à ce jour. Et ça sera les 20 milliards issus de la vente des quotas ETS, c'est ça?
Donc, on propose différentes choses. Donc, ce qu'on propose, c'est qu'effectivement, il y aura de nouveaux subsides de 20 milliards d'euros qui seront disponibles sous la facilité pour justement financer les réformes et les investissements exclusivement liés à l'implémentation des objectifs de Repower EU. Mais donc, à côté de ça, il ne faut pas oublier qu'il y a aussi encore des prêts qui sont disponibles, qui n'ont pas encore été utilisés, qui s'élèvent à 225 milliards d'euros. Et donc, les États membres sont aussi encouragés à utiliser ces prêts pour implémenter les mesures à l'appui des objectifs de Repower EU. Et finalement, ce que nous proposons aussi dans le cadre des amendements qu'on propose par rapport au règlement de la facilité, c'est que les États membres auront en fait une flexibilité accrue pour utiliser les fonds de cohésion et les fonds pour l'agriculture et en fait de les transférer vers la facilité, donc la RRF, à hauteur de 12,5% dans les deux cas.
Merci beaucoup, Verle. Une nouvelle question de suivi de la part de Virginie.
Mais du coup, qu'est-ce qui se passe pour les pays comme la Hongrie qui n'ont pas de plan de relance, ou la Pologne, ou les Pays-Bas? Mais parlons de la Hongrie, puisque c'est quand même le pays problématique pour eux.
Donc, il faut d'abord que le règlement entre en vigueur. Donc, ça, c'est une première chose. Et donc, au moment où ce le règlement entrera en vigueur, les États membres pour lesquels le plan a déjà été approuvé pourront soumettre ce nouveau chapitre.
Les deux choses sont liées, évidemment. Virginie, nouvelle question?
C'est-à-dire que j'avais cru comprendre que les discussions, enfin c'est pas j'avais cru comprendre, c'est les discussions entre la Commission et la Hongrie sur le sujet de l'embargo sur le pétrole portent sur justement la manière d'aider la Hongrie financièrement à financer des infrastructures pour justement pouvoir se passer du pétrole russe. L'idée, c'était que ça passe par REPowerEU, cette aide au financement, mais en fait, en l'état actuel des choses, en fait, c'est impossible. Parce que le plan de relance de la Hongrie, vous n'allez pas l'approuver dans les 15 jours, ou alors il y a un truc qui m'échappe.
Non, donc il faut d'abord que le plan soit approuvé, soyons clairs.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que c'est une question à ce sujet aussi? Vas-y.
Oui, merci. Marco Bresolin, La Stampa. Donc, par exemple, avec le nouveau règlement, les États membres auront 30 jours pour demander l'accès aux prêts de Next Generation EU. Je voulais juste savoir comment ça se passe pour les États dont le plan n'a pas été encore approuvé. Est-ce qu'ils auront le droit, dans ces 30 jours, de demander sa quota des prêts? Et qu'est-ce qui se passe si, par exemple, ils demandent leur quota, mais le plan n'est pas encore attribué, n'est pas encore approuvé? Est-ce que leur quota des prêts, après les 30 jours, sera distribué ou elle sera gelée en attendant l'approbation formelle des plans? Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Je pense qu'on ferait bien d'organiser un briefing technique bientôt pour élucider toutes ces questions parce que c'est complexe. Le paquet REPowerEU que nous avons présenté la semaine dernière, il était très vaste. Il comportait beaucoup d'angles et effectivement, peut-être qu'une session consacrée au financement serait la bienvenue. On va parler avec les collègues. Je vais voir si Verle peut ajouter quelque chose à ce qu'elle vient de dire en réponse à Virginie, mais sinon on viendra bientôt vers vous avec l'élucidation de ces questions avec des experts. Verle.
Oui, je peux revenir aussi en bilatéral envers vous, mais effectivement, on n'a pas eu l'occasion de vous expliquer dans les détails tous les aboutissements qui sont dans les deux documents qu'on a proposés en fait, donc parce qu'il y a deux documents dans le contexte du plan REPowerEU qui touche au règlement, à la facilité, Donc, d'un côté, il y a des propositions que la Commission propose par rapport au règlement de la facilité pour la reprise et la résilience, justement comme je venais de dire, d'un côté implémenter les REPowerEU chapters, donc pour que les États membres intègrent des mesures, donc des réformes et des investissements à l'appui des priorités de REPowerEU. D'un autre côté, ces changements prévoient différents modes de financement. On propose différents modes de financement pour implémenter ces réformes. Donc ça, c'est un document très important. Et d'un autre côté, il y a aussi un deuxième document dans le plan REPowerEU qui touche notamment à votre question. C'est la guidance de la Commission par rapport à la révision des plans de relance et de reprise et de résilience. Donc il y a ces deux documents qui mériteraient effectivement, comme Dana le suggère, un briefing technique pour répondre à toutes vos questions sur ces deux documents.
Right, thank you so much. Any questions about this same issue, the financing of REPowerEU? I see two more hands up in the system. So, David, is your question about this? Because I already know that Zoriana's question is about something else, so I will take it after. David?
Yes, thank you, Dana. In fact, it's on oil embargo. I don't know if I can ask since Virginie has raised the issue. I've seen the statement of Viktor Orban yesterday, saying that a solution must be found before accepting the sixth package. I'm wondering if you can update us on progress to find this solution, since video conference was expected some times ago, but it never happened. Then I would have also a question on gas payments, but it's for later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. So in relation to your first question on state of play of negotiations on the sixth package of sanctions against Russia, which includes, according to our proposal, an embargo of oil from Russia, discussions continue. We are supporting all actors involved in trying to find a way out. You are familiar with our position on the fact that we understand that countries like Hungary, landlocked, need to adapt, and this is something which is difficult, complex, and we are there to support, to find solutions. You mentioned the video conference. Indeed, if it's necessary and when we have ripe solutions on the table that we can discuss at the leaders level, we are ready to organize and to facilitate. But for the moment, work continues at all necessary levels in order to identify a solution. But I have no update on any outcome to give you. So then, at this stage, I will just give you the floor for the second question, which was about payment for gas. David.
Thank you. If I may, before that, a follow-up on oil embargo. Why the Commission decided to put forward this proposal without having consulted the member states? Hungary on its problem. At the end of the day, I mean, apparently you said that it's a difficult situation. You cannot find an easy way out of it. So I'm wondering why you put forward the sixth package with the oil embargo constructed in this way. Not taking in account the Hungarian problem. And on payment, yesterday, Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte, in front of the Parliament, said that you have not been clear on how the system works, on guidelines, and asked for the third time, apparently, clarification to the European Commission. I'm wondering if you have received this request by the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, and how you will react. Thank you.
Thanks so much, David. Let me go back to your first question on the oil embargo. You know the European decision-making system very well, David. You are an old hand in Brussels. We were working together as journalists way back. So you know how it works. The Commission, of course, makes its consultations before putting on the table proposals of every nature, because that's in the nature of our working with the Member States. But the Commission has the responsibilities and the prerogatives to make its proposals, and then it's for the Council to organize negotiations to find a solution on those. If we were to wait until there is the required majority or unanimity in this case before making any proposal, we would simply be ripping the Council of its role as a forum where negotiations take place on our proposals. It is in the nature of those negotiations that we are searching for solutions together, many issues may be linked. Answering to one matter can provide a solution to another matter that the member states identified. So I can clearly confirm that we did carry out consultations, as it's our habit, our tradition, and our way of working with the member states on all major proposals. And I can also confirm that it's natural for the institution in charge of the negotiations then to carry out those negotiations. That's why they're called negotiations. Much as we like to have rapid approvals of our proposals, and we work towards that, obviously, we can't expect every time we make a proposal that there is an endorsement of it within hours, as if it was a formality simply to put it on the table. So it belongs to the nature of our institution and settings in Brussels that you have negotiations and you need to find compromises through discussions in the Council. In relation to the second one on payment for gas and the guidance, look, we've had that discussion in this press room many times for many weeks. Last week was particularly intensive through our exchanges on the payment system for gas. I believe that our position is very clear. Indeed, we have issued guidance to support member states in the implementation of the sanctions. That guidance, which was refreshed recently, about 10 days ago, to answer additional questions asked by the member states, needs to cover a variety of situations across the European Union. We are talking there about commercial contracts between EU companies and the Russian suppliers, and we are, of course, always ready to work on providing additional explanations to member states bilaterally at expert level or in any multilateral fora where we all meet and discuss this difficult issue. I wonder if Tim has any updates on whether we received anything specific from the Dutch side. No, he does not. So we are not aware of any more formal sort of way to raise the issue that you referred to so far. But of course, I trust we will get back to it. We can count on you to keep your interest up on this issue. Right. So, are there any additional questions on the sixth package of sanctions or on payments for gas? I don't see any, so let's change subjects. Yes, go ahead.
Very much. I hope you can hear me. Naomi O'Leary, Irish Times. My question is on a somewhat related issue in that it's also about a country blocking something. Could you give any update on the proposal for a 15% minimum corporation tax? It seems that Poland has prevented it to be on the ECOFIN agenda today. What's your expectation in terms of when this could be agreed? And does this pose any problem for the hoped-for calendar in terms of international reforms? And then I have a follow-up question after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. So first of all, the matter is on will be discussed in the context of the ministerial meeting in the Council today. So we would actually, yes, you could ask a question there, but I will invite Dan to see if he's got anything to add to cover the space until that press conference.
Hi, Naomi. How's it going? No, indeed, we'll have the press conference following the ECOFIN in a couple of minutes' time. So I can just simply reiterate our general position on this, and then, indeed, if you want to ask more questions afterwards, you can, of course. I mean, as we've said a number of times already, we will continue to support the French presidency, member states in their discussions on this file. We've all committed to timely implementation of this solution, of this agreement. And just generally, what I would like to recall is that in the area of corporate taxation, we need to bring fairness, transparency and stability. So that would be what I'd have to say on that for this exact moment in time.
Thank you, Dan. Are there any additional questions on this? Yes, Naomi, follow up.
Yeah, just as a follow-up, thanks. Has Poland asked for anything in a different field to win it over in this matter? And that's a question. And I'd also like to ask whether this situation, this might be one for Dana, both with Hungary and with Poland, has made you consider the proposal by the Conference on the Future of Europe in terms of getting rid of the need for unanimity in certain decisions? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question, Naomi. So if you're asking us about the course of negotiations on the matter, I would clearly invite you to rather ask it to the Council, which is organizing, hosting and chairing those negotiations. And they would be in a position to tell you more about the dynamics of those negotiations. There is a proposal on the table which comes from us, and we work constructively with the Presidency to get an agreement on it, but we will not be able to comment on individual positions or possible ways out in this negotiation. Regarding the question on decision-making in general, you know our position. We have often said in the context of the Conference of Future of Europe debates that indeed it would be useful to look at areas whether it would be good to go to qualified majority voting. The Commission is working on its position on how to follow up on the series of recommendations put forward by citizens' panels during the proceeds of the Conference on the Future of Europe, and we will be able to come up with our suggestions or position next month. But not more can be said at this stage. Right, thank you very much. Are there any additional questions for Dan, as he stands on the podium right now? Odile, est-ce que la question que tu veux poser est pour Dan? Parce que je vois que tu as ta main levée.
Oui, bonjour. Je pense que c'est Dan qui peut répondre à ça. Vendredi dernier, Filippo Grandi était ici et on reçoit aussi ce matin du UNHCR un wake-up call concernant les 100 millions de réfugiés ou de personnel, de gens qui doivent être déplacés. Et la réflexion de Filippo Grandi, c'est que effectivement, il y a beaucoup de compassion vis-à-vis des réfugiés, mais finalement, I say it in English to quote, ultimately, humanitarian aid is a palliative and not a cure. And to reverse this trend, the only answer is peace and stability, so that innocent people are not forced to gamble between acute danger at home or precarious flight and exile. Ma question à Dan, est-ce que à la conférence de l'Europe, il y a eu de la part des participants, il y a quelque chose sur justement ce phénomène des réfugiés et le cas échéant, est-ce que tu pourrais m'envoyer le résumé de ça? Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Odile. Dan, est-ce que tu te rappelles par cœur, parmi les amples recommandations des citoyens, et sinon tu reviendras bien sûr vers Odile?
Bien sûr. Honnêtement, je n'attendais pas à ce que la question finisse avec la conférence de l'avenir de l'Europe. Mais bien sûr, Odile, je peux t'envoyer le texte avec les 49 propositions élaborées par les citoyens pendant la conférence sur l'avenir d'Europe, qui comprend bien sûr certains éléments sur ce sujet.
Merci beaucoup, Dan. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions pour Dan à ce stade? Je n'en vois pas. Merci beaucoup, Dan. Donc, on va maintenant vers Oliver. Oliver a eu sa main levée pendant longtemps. Vas-y, Oliver.
Hi, thank you. My question is on wheat and on the Russian blockage of Odessa port and the Russian actions that actually preventing Ukraine from exporting wheat via ship through the Bosporus. I have two questions. First of all, I think you alluded to the speech of the president where she said she's going to raise, in general terms, the global food crisis with her interlocutors in Davos. Is she going to pick up the initiative by the Lithuanian foreign minister, Landsbergis, who even spoke about this with the British foreign minister, to organize sort of an international marine escort operation, decisively not run by NATO, but by sort of a coalition of the willing, that would actually demine part of the Black Sea and escort Ukrainian ships out of the port of Odessa through the Bosporus so that the wheat can actually move on to international markets. And he was specifically addressing Egypt because Egypt might be, affected by this. So is this something that the European Commission considers a good proposal, a workable proposal? What are you going to do, if you think so, to make it happen? And the second question, the Ukrainian Foreign Minister Kuleba accused Russia of stealing Ukrainian grain and selling it through the Bosporus to global markets. What are you doing to verify this, and what are you doing to prevent this from actually happening? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oliver, for this question. So let me start by saying that working to ensure food security and to address the issues triggered by Russia's invasion of Ukraine is one of the top priorities for the Commission right now. There are many ways in which we help address it. As the President also mentioned this morning, first we will try to help Ukraine export the wheat that it has stored on its territory, because that will not only bring much needed revenues for Ukraine and its farmers, but it would also address the issue of food insecurity, which we are really having right now, because that wheat is being eagerly awaited in many countries in the Horn of Africa or in the Middle East, for instance, where the situation starts becoming very concerning. The second way in which we try to address this is by growing our production so that we can put ourselves more grain on the market. And thirdly, we will work with local communities in Africa and elsewhere to enable them to produce more grain, more wheat themselves. Regarding the first strand of work on Ukraine, we have introduced the solidarity lanes ourselves to help bring exports of grain outside Ukraine by linking Ukraine to our ports. And of course, we are interested in any initiative that is put on the table to help finish the blockade of Ukrainian ports in the Black Sea. We have to look at this specific initiative, and we are ready to support, in general terms, initiatives within the limits of our competencies, because you will have to see what the initiative is about. We are also working with our partners. You know that there are many initiatives which we find fruitful to work with. An initiative from G7, an initiative from the French presidency. We mentioned ourselves our intention to work with Egypt, including through an event, to identify together solutions to ease the situation on global food and wheat markets. And regarding the initiative that you mentioned, about which we have read as well, we indeed need to look into the details of it to see how and if, in what ways, we would be able to support it ourselves. Peter, do you have anything to add to that? Yeah. Thank you. Are there any questions on this? I don't see any. Yeah, Oliver, you have a follow-up, perhaps.
Hi. On the the accusation of the Ukrainian Foreign Minister that Russia is stealing Ukrainian grain and selling it to world markets. Are you aware of this? Can you confirm it? And if so, what can the EU do to stop this?
Peter is coming on stage to give you an answer.
Thanks, Oliver. Of course, Minister Kuleba has very frequent exchanges with his EU colleagues. Latest example is last week when he joined in person the Foreign Affairs Council. But he has also a lot of bilateral contacts, be it with High Representative Borrell or with foreign ministers of other countries. And of course, we have ongoing contact with the Ukrainian partners, and we are very well aware about the situation in this particular case, about the reports and actually cases when the Russian soldiers, Russian troops are looting the grain storages or destroying the fields, destroying the stockpiles of wheat and grain in Ukraine. And that's why the European Union, of course, we have no doubt that this is going on because there are proofs. I mean, there is a lot of satellite imagery and other things about which I will not go into much details, but that this is a common knowledge within the European Union that this is going on. This is why we are saying that Putin is using food as weapon in this aggression against Ukraine. And this weapon is affecting not only Ukraine, but is affecting also the most vulnerable countries in Africa and in Asia. So we have no doubts about these claims. These claims have been verified. There is enough evidence for us to be convinced that Russia is, in addition to destroying the civilian infrastructure and in addition to destroying the necessary resources of Ukrainian agriculture, that it is actively looting. And if you look at what was going on over the last few days, Egypt, for example, refused to take cargo of wheat and grains which were apparently looted from Ukrainian stockpiles. So this is not only about us knowing it, this is also about the wider international community knowing it. And we are supporting Ukraine in order to fight also this kind of aggression against its agricultural sector and trade, with all the initiatives that Dana was just explaining.
Thank you, Peter. Are there any additional questions for Peter today on this matter or on others? Oliver has a follow-up. Go ahead, Oliver.
Thank you. But I mean, more concretely, what can the EU do about Russian ships or Russian flagged ships or ships flagged by other countries, but actually sort of working for the Russians, shipping stolen, looted grain to the world markets, because not every country will be in a position to refuse such deliveries. What can you do? Isn't that something that a sanctions package should address as well? That if, for example, say you refuse the insurance of any ship that is taking part in, Russian grain deliveries or something. Isn't there anything that you can do? Can you be a bit more concrete about the steps you want to take? And do you actually manage to monitor all these deliveries? I mean, it must be fiendishly complicated. There are lots of ships on the world seas. So how do you know on which one there's looted grain and where isn't? Thank you.
Well, many things from what you mentioned, Oliver, is being considered or is being done from those about which I can talk, because obviously we are in a state of war, and in this war, as mentioned, Putin is using also food as a weapon. So in going into revealing everything what we can do or what we could do would also serve him to prevent it, of course. So from those things which I can mention, apart from those initiatives which we mentioned, is of course exchange of information with the Ukrainians. They first of all know where they have storages and where the stuff is being looted. Then there is a lot of satellite imagery, of course. Other thing very important is to raise awareness internationally about this, and this is what we are doing, and this is also partially what contributed to the very courageous decision by the Egyptian partners who are suffering under the consequences, food consequences of this aggression against Ukraine. So raising awareness of the partners that Putin and his soldiers are looting and then trying to sell the stuff around the world. So in international joint efforts, we are trying to prevent this from happening. As I said, the initiatives and the discussions are still ongoing about what's the best way to prevent it also when the ships are sailing, when the vessels are en route. But raising awareness with international partners and potential buyers is also something that is very important, like it is important also at the political level to continue raising the dangers and the negative consequences of this illegal aggression, not only against Ukraine, but also on the food security, energy security of the countries which are far away from Ukraine, but it affects them already heavily.
Indeed, and if I may just complete on the public awareness side, it is also very important to make clear that it is the Russian invasion which has created the very difficult situation and the crisis of food security that we now have, which affects so many millions of people worldwide, and the blame is very clearly, squarely to be put on Putin's side. It is his actions and what they continue doing in Ukraine which have led to that situation. Thank you very much. Are there any additional questions for Peter on this subject? I see that Monica has her hand up. Is the question about this? Monica, go ahead. No, question is not about this. So, Peter, thank you. And Monica, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, this is Monica Pranchuk with the New York Times. Just sort of a follow-up on that wheat issue. So could you give any more details about the timeline of the assessment of a joint initiative with Egypt? You mentioned an event. Could you give any sort of more details on that and elaborate on that? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much for your question, Monica. I do understand your interest, but the initiative was only announced this morning. We're still working with the Egyptian side to shape and to define it and to identify a timing for it. So I will be back with information as we proceed with those discussions with the Egyptian side. It is early days, but of course we are dealing with a crisis, so we are interested in finding ways to converge, to convene, and to bring to life new initiatives as soon as feasible. But no details at this stage. Right, then we have the question from Zoriana, who couldn't connect, didn't have the right sound source, so I am going to read it and we'll try to give an answer. So Zoriana is asking, quote, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen assumed at a forum in Davos that the seized Russian assets could be used to finance the reconstruction of Ukraine after the war. How can the EU transfer the seized assets of Ukraine procedurally? And when can Kyiv count on it? So that's a question from Zoriana. And I'll invite Christian to give an answer.
Anna, thank you, Zoriana. Well, you might have seen that on tomorrow's college agenda there are proposals relating to the freezing and confiscation of assets, and in particular a proposal on making the circumvention of restrictive measures a Euro crime. So I would say this comes in this context, of course, because as you might have, and it is quite of a complex legal matter in when you talk about confiscation of assets. So I will not go now into any details on upcoming college proposals, but let me just remind you a little bit of what Commissioner Reinders recently explained at the press conference, which is that there's a difference between freezing and confiscation legally, and that therefore you need a criminal connection, a criminal conviction, if you want to confiscate any assets in respect of rule of law and the relevant applicable rules. And this is where this proposal comes in, and I would ask for a little bit of patience and ask you to stay tuned for tomorrow's college to see what exactly the Commission will be coming forward with.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Christian. Are there any additional questions for us today? I see two more. Are they about this? So please let me know if they are for Tim for Christian, by keeping your hand up. If they are for Christian on this subject. That's a Freudian slip. Tim wasn't on the podium today. Yes, Paula's question is for Christian. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dana. I wonder if you could give us the Commission's assessment of the feasibility of seizing the assets of the Russian Central Bank and whether that at all is under consideration by the Commission. Thanks.
Thank you, Paula. Let's see what Christian can say at this stage. Again, I'm here to make sure he doesn't anticipate anything from tomorrow's proposals. They are subject to a college discussion and decision. So, with that, Christian?
Exactly. I'll say as little as I can, and no worries about the Freudian slip. Tim was in my team some time ago, quite a long time ago. So we're of course there's no issue. No, on your question about the Russian central bank assets, look, we are following the discussion. What is important to keep in mind is that freezing of assets is different from of seizing them. In most member states, this is not possible, and the criminal conviction is necessary to confiscate assets. Also, legally speaking, private entities and central bank assets are not the same. So there are discussions that continue in the context of a freeze and seize task force on the broader issue of confiscation also. And as we just said, there will be proposals on the college tomorrow. Of course, it is clear that everything we do needs to be based on the rule of law and on the rules-based order that we stand for in Europe.
Indeed, we are dealing with a complex matter legally, but our aim is to make Russian oligarchs pay to the extent that we can, and always with law on our side. So that's why you can hear more about this and about the legal ways in which we propose to address some of those issues tomorrow. I see that George has his hand up. Is it about the same issue? So, George, go ahead.
But I'm unclear if it's for Christian because it's on infringements, but on the daily news it relates to some other issues and has Adalbert listed as the person who's responsible. So I'm not sure exactly if I should address it to Christian.
Just go ahead. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Today on the daily news, there's an item on a non-communication infringement cycle on Cyprus, Czechia, Finland, Portugal, and Slovakia. It seems to be related with non-application of certain directives. Could you clarify what this non-communication infringement cycle is? Is it different from a regular infringement procedure? Why was it announced differently? Is there anything else we should know about how this will go down? Thanks.
Thank you very much, George. I will give the floor to Adalbert to say the little he can, I assume, on the procedural matter of this, I imagine.
Hi, thanks a lot. So if I understand correctly, your question is about why this new type of infringement that you're seeing in our press material, and basically non-communication cases is something that the Commission has always pursued. The idea is that when member states transpose or when directives enter into force, member states need to transpose them in their national law, so they need to enact national law in order to give effect to these directives, and then they need to inform the Commission of the transposition measures that they take. And when that does not happen, when member states do not do this, then the Commission opens infringement proceedings. And in order to increase the transparency of our communication on infringements, we are communicating on the non-communication cases very specifically as of now. So you will have seen for the first time a specific piece of communication about three cases in this infringement cycle. It is as simple as that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adalbert. Are there any additional questions for Adalbert on this matter? Other matters for Adalbert? No, so thank you, Adalbert. And I see in our chat that Maria is interested to ask a question for Tim. So Tim gets ready, and Maria, go ahead.
Hello, and thanks again for the floor. Actually, there was a meeting between the Commissioner Kadri Simpson and the Greek Minister of Energy, Kostas Skrekas. And I would like to have a readout of this meeting, and especially about the mechanism that was presented by the Greek government, which provides a cap of the compensation of power plants based on the actual cost of their production. It's very technical, but it is apparently very important for the Greek consumers. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Maria. For now, all I can do is confirm that this meeting took place. I don't have a detailed readout for you, but I will see what more information I can find, and we'll come back to you as soon as possible.
Thank you. Any other questions for Tim, now that he made it to the podium today? No, everybody deserves a nice lunch. So thank you very much, and see you tomorrow for the college readout.